guys, today I'm going to do a video for you on what is a title search. If I'm buying a home, why is it necessary to do a title search? Or maybe you might hear investors saying they got to do a title search because they're buying a property through a foreclosure sale or an auction or something to that effect. Even if you're buying a tax deed, or you're paying somebody taxes or a tax sale certificate, you want to do a title search because you want to know what's going on with the property. Because more than likely, if you're in a tax sale, especially if it's an auction and there's tax lien against the property, there may be other liens. So a title search is something that shows the title company or an attorney what is the situation with the property. Is there any legal problems or situation going on with the property? So the two people that would do a title search would be a title company or an attorney. Also, if you're buying a home the traditional way and you're financing it, the lender is going to want to do a title search. And even if you're buying a property for cash, you probably do want to do a title search because you want to know what you're taking on. So what does it entail? And is it the same as a deed? No, it's not. The deed is the actual document on the property. The title search is the concept of ownership. Is a title that follows the property. So some of the stuff you want to be looking for is how was the land recorded on the deed, the property plots. That mean what is the plot? What does the survey say on the property? Are there any tax liens? Is there any divorce records on the property? Any bankruptcy claim on the property? Any construction lien? Any judgments? All that stuff will come up on a title search, and it's very important for you to know these things before you buy a property. Now, depending upon who records title, there could be different situation where there are errors on the title search, right? They're not necessarily a problem, it's just maybe an error. Maybe the plot wasn't filed correctly, and then they got to go all the way back in time to figure out what happens there. Consider when you're buying a new construction home, right? If you're going to buy a new construction home, the builder is building on vacant land. So before it becomes a plot and a buildable residential lot, it's just raw land. So somebody had to go out there and they had to plot how much acres is going to be in this one residential lot. Maybe the county says if you're going to build in this particular area, each home has to be on at least a quarter acre, or each home have to be 100 by 100 on lot. So they're going to determine what the lot size is. Based upon the lot size, the surveyor is going to go out there and survey and say, okay, this is one lot, this is one residential lot, you could build a house on it. So that means the builder is going to build on vacant land, or maybe you might have bought land and know you're going to build on the land. So it's vacant land, so it is recorded as vacant land. Once the home gets built on it, the builder obviously bought the land from somebody, so they record that they sold it to the builder, and then the builder has to record that from that land they built a home and they sold the home to you. So there's a chain of command going on there. Land can become very specific because land doesn't age, right? So land is there from the beginning of time. So when you're buying land and you're doing a title search on the land, is when did this land come into existence, as far as when was the first time somebody owned the property? First it was created, land, it's just land. And then at some point in time, somebody got ownership of that particular plot of land, and because they got ownership, it gave them the legal right to convey it or to sell it to other people. That's super important. So the title search is going back in time. There was a time recently, a few years ago maybe, when I was in the middle of a deal where the VA had foreclosed on this property, and now my client was buying the home from the VA in a foreclosure sale. And apparently when the VA got the property back from the original people that bought the home when the builder originally built the home. So when the builder built the home, there were some parcels or some numbers that wasn't recorded correctly. So they didn't know that they bought the home and they live in the home for 20 something years. For whatever the reason is, they got foreclosed on, and now VA took the property back and they're selling the property in a foreclosure. During the foreclosure sale, we realized the plot was not the title. There was a grievance with the title because it wasn't filed correctly from the builder 20 something years ago, which means they got to go back and see if they could find the builder from 20 something years ago, which sometime Those builders are out of, they're no longer in business, whatever the situation is. And the deal fell apart because the buyer wasn't willing to wait. It took us like 3 months and they still didn't have an answer. So the buyer decided to move to another home. So I gave you this example just to show you how complicated it can become if there's issue on the title. Let's pretend there's issues on the title. What happens if there's issues on the title? If there's any issues on the title, then it cannot be conveyed. So if you're buying a home and they're doing a title search, and let's say they found that there's a tax lien on the property. If there's a tax lien on the property, that's easily solved because the taxes can be paid at the closing table and the lien goes away.
This program is brought to you by Gift Group Sells Homes. Need to buy or sell fast? Make one call, that's all. And put our 23 years of experience to work for you. Gift Group Sells Homes is the way to go. Call for 07-791-4713.
What if there's a bankruptcy? What if the seller was in bankruptcy and part of the bankruptcy and that property, let's say it's a Chapter 7. Chapter 7 bankruptcy and that property is involved with the Chapter 7 bankruptcy, they can't sell the home until the bankruptcy is discharged. It's just going to be tied up, so then you couldn't buy the property, right? Let's say if there's a judgment against the property. More than likely, what we're going to find a lot of is liens and judgment against properties. What if there's a judgment against a property? Maybe the person went and they had a Sears credit card, and Sears is famous for this, by the way, when they were in business. Is Sears still in business? I don't even know. Anyway, back in the days, when you had a Sears credit card, if you didn't pay off that credit card, Sears will put a lien against your property. If they find any property that you held in your name, they'll put a judgment against it. So let's say you're going to buy a home and Sears has a judgment against your property for, I don't know, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is. That might be easily cleared up because then the person, if you're selling the property is against you, you could easily pay that off or negotiate with Sears or something like that to get for you to pay them and they'll release the judgment. So that's easy. But what if it's a judgment like maybe it was a husband and wife situation and there's a divorce and one part didn't like what the other party did, so they put a judgment on the property for off the price of the property or whatever the situation is. Then that becomes more complicated. Or maybe there's a judgment because a contractor came out there. There's a contractual lien. Let's talk about a contractual lien. There's a contractual lien because a contractor came out and did work on your property and you never paid them, and then they put a lien on the property, or they put a lien on the seller's property and you're going to buy the property. If there's a contractual lien on the property, it has to be released. So you cannot buy a property with any kind of encumbrance on the title, any kind of encumbrances on the property, meaning liens, judgment, property plots not recorded correctly, the correct name. Maybe you're buying a home from Jimmy Smith, but John Doe is on the title. So who owns the property? Did this person change their name, or what's going on? So if there's a difference in name, if there's a difference in also the chain of ownership, maybe the home is 30 years old and we know that 30 years ago Mary Brown bought the property and then she sold it to Michael Jackson and then he sold it to Tina Turner, but then after Tina Turner we didn't see any ownership, and now Joe Brown owns the property. And there's a gap in between Tina Turner and Joe Brown because they don't see when Joe Brown bought it from Tina Turner. So if there's any break of command, we got to go back in time and figure out, well, how did Joe Brown get a hold of this property if Tina Turner was the last owner? What happened? Did he buy it? Did he steal it? What happened? So all this stuff are stuff that the title search is going to reveal. And it's going to be super duper important because you don't want to have a property that has any kind of lien or judgments or anything like that against it. And the bank will not give you a mortgage if there's any kind of problem with the title. So that's why a title search is so super important. And that's why if you're going to a tax sale or a foreclosure sale or auction or anything like that to do with property, you want to make sure you have a title search done on that property before you get involved with it. Because a lot of time when these properties end up in these kind of situations, they have different things going on with them. They may have way more judgments on them. Now, remember, I don't know if you know this, but taxes and HOA take precedence over a mortgage lien. So obviously, when you own a property, if you have a mortgage against it, the mortgage is going to be a lien against the property. So when they do the title search, they see the mortgage, they already know, oh yeah, there's a mortgage involved because this person owned the property is held in their name and the mortgage is in their name, so they have a mortgage, so they're going to pay the mortgage off at the closing table, right? That's what happens. But what if there was a mortgage and then there was tax liens and then there was HOA liens? What's going to happen? More than likely, if there's a mortgage, the mortgage bank will step in and they're going to pay off the taxes and the HOA, because there's no way the bank is going to allow the tax guys or the HOA guys to get all the property that they have a big mortgage on. But what if someone bought the property for cash? They bought the property for cash and now there's a HOA lien and now there's a tax lien, right? Tax take precedence. So if you buy the property at a tax sale and when you do the title search, you realize that there's a HOA lien, you're going to know that you're going to have to pay off that HOA lien before you could actually take control of the property, because the HOA lien is not going to go away. So the tax guys having the sale, the HOA people step back and they know there's a tax sale. Once this tax sale is over and you gain ownership of that property, the HOA people are going to write to you, hey, we now realize you're the owner of the property. Here is the HOA dues that's owed, that you owe us now because you're the owner of the property now. Right? So that is the reason why you need to do title search, and that's why they do a lot of title search and all this stuff, because they want to make sure that there's no liens or encumbrances or anything on the property and you could clear title. If you don't have clear title, you cannot close. No matter how much you love the property, if the title is not clean and clear, you will not be able to close on that property. You cannot convey title unless the title is clear. Okay, so if you have any questions on this, I want to go more into this, leave a comment down there, let me know. But that's really what a title search is. A title search, plain and simple, is to make sure that there's no lien or judgment against the property and that the person who is selling the property have the legal obligation and legal right that they legally own the property and they are able to sell it to you, and that's what the title will reveal. If somebody is trying to sell somebody else's property, it probably won't go through because the title search is going to stop it in the track. They're going to realize in the title search that, wait a minute, this is not this person, it's a different name. But there are fraud, and a lot of time people will assume other people's identity and act like they are the person and they're not. And this happens a lot online. When we as realtors, we get a call from somebody out of the state or out of the country saying, hey, I want to sell this land. It's my land. It's 10 acres. I'm selling the land. And coming to find out they don't own the land really. That happened to me, actually. That happened to me. We caught it, but it happened to me. Guy called, said he's in Canada, said he was selling the land. The title company asked him for his Canadian ID and all that stuff. Everything was looking fishy. They are closing. They were supposed to close at the Canadian immigration. They gave all kind of different excuses. Come to find out that it was all fraud. Yeah, so that is crazy. So make sure that when you're buying something that you're doing a title search and that you know for sure who you're buying the property from, because let's pretend that deal went through with the land, that he came and he acted like he was the owner and we sold it to this buyer. The buyer really wouldn't own the property. They would have to give it back. That's how crazy it would get. So title search is very, very important in any kind of real estate transaction. Doesn't matter who you're buying it from. Doesn't matter if you're buying for cash. You want to make sure you know for sure who owns the property and if there's any kind of lien or judgment against that title that would prevent it from closing. And if there is, it has to be cleared up before you're able to go to the closing table to close. Are this going to be cleared up at the closing table or before you get to the closing table? But if it's not cleared up, title cannot be conveyed over to a new buyer. All right. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
This program is brought to you by Gift Group Sells Homes. Need to buy or sell fast? Make one call, that's all. And put our 23 years of experience to work for you. Gift Group Sells Homes is the way to go. Call for 07-791-4713.